There is something quietly unsettling about the way most people relate to their savings account. You work hard, you spend carefully, you resist the impulse purchases. You move money into savings at the end of the month, and you feel, for a moment, like you are doing the right thing. Like you are being responsible, like your future self will thank you. But what if that feeling of safety is actually costing you more than you realize? What if the very habit that feels like financial discipline is in slow motion, moving you further away from the wealth you are trying to build? This is not a warning against saving money. Saving is important, but there is a hidden mechanism working inside the financial system that most people in the middle class have never been clearly shown. And once you understand it, the way you think about your money will never be quite the same. Let us begin with a number. The average savings account today offers an interest rate somewhere between 1 and 2% annually. Some accounts offer slightly more, many offer less. But let us be generous and say your bank is giving you 2% per year on whatever you have saved. That sounds like something. It sounds like your money is growing. But here is the other number that most people forget to place next to it. Inflation. The slow, consistent rise in the cost of everyday things. Groceries, rent, transportation, healthcare, education. Over time, these things cost more. Not dramatically more overnight, but steadily, quietly, more. Historically, inflation has averaged somewhere around 3% per year in many economies, sometimes lower, sometimes considerably higher. But the pattern is consistent. Things get more expensive over time. Now place those two numbers side by side. Your savings account gives you 2%. Inflation takes 3%. The result is a negative 1% return in real terms. Every single year, the money sitting in your savings account is losing purchasing power. The number on your screen stays the same or grows slightly. But what that number can actually buy in the real world is shrinking. This is not a dramatic crash. It is not a sudden loss. It is something far more dangerous because it is invisible. It happens too slowly for most people to notice until years have passed. There is a concept in economics called the real rate of return. It simply means the return on your money after accounting for inflation. And when most people calculate the real rate of return on their savings account, they discover something uncomfortable. They are not growing their wealth. They are slowly losing it. Think about what $1,000 could buy 10 years ago. Now think about what $1,000 buys today. The number is the same. The purchasing power is not. If that money sat in a savings account for 10 years at 2% interest, it grew to roughly $1,200. But if inflation averaged 3% over that same period, the real value of that $1,200 is actually less than what the original $1,000 could purchase a decade ago. The account grew, but the wealth did not. Now here's the psychological layer that makes this even more complicated. The savings account feels safe, and that feeling is not wrong. For certain purposes, savings accounts are genuinely important. Emergency funds, short-term goals, money you may need access to quickly, these belong in savings. The security is real for those purposes. There is a well-documented psychological principle called the status quo bias. It describes the human tendency to prefer the current situation over change, even when change would produce a better outcome. Moving money out of savings and into something else feels risky. It feels like action, and action carries the possibility of loss, which the brain finds deeply uncomfortable. So people stay. They keep the money in savings. They tell themselves they will figure out the investing part later, and later becomes years. And years become decades. Consider the typical middle-class household. Both people are working. The income is decent. Not extravagant, but enough to cover expenses with something left over. That leftover amount goes into savings every month. It accumulates slowly. On paper, they are doing everything right. They are not gambling. They are not overspending. They are saving diligently. But the financial system they are operating inside quietly rewards a different behavior. It rewards people who put their long-term money to work in ways that outpace inflation. And it does not announce this loudly. It does not send a letter explaining what is being lost. It simply continues operating, and the gap between those who understand it and those who do not grows a little wider each year. This is not about blame. The middle class was largely taught that saving is the goal, Put money away, build a cushion. That advice is not wrong for emergencies, but it was never designed to be the complete financial strategy for building lasting wealth. Somewhere along the way, saving became a substitute for investing in the minds of many people, when it was always only meant to be the foundation. The shift that changes this begins with one simple distinction. Not all money serves the same purpose. Some money needs to be accessible, stable, and safe, and that money belongs in savings. But other money, the money you genuinely will not need for years, serves a completely different purpose. That money's job is to grow faster than inflation. And a savings account, almost by definition, cannot do that job. When you begin to separate your money by its purpose rather than simply accumulating it all in one place, something changes in how you relate to your finances. The savings account stops being the destination and starts being the first step. The emergency fund gets built and protected, and the remaining long-term money is put somewhere that gives it a real chance to grow. This is not complicated in concept. What makes it difficult is the emotional work of accepting that safety and growth are not the same thing. And that genuine financial progress requires tolerating a degree of uncertainty that a savings account never asks of you. There is one more layer worth understanding. The banks are not confused about any of this. The institution holding your savings account takes that money, lends it out at significantly higher interest rates, and earns the difference. They are using your money to grow their money. They offer you 2% and earn 7, 8, sometimes 10% or more on what they do with your deposits. This is not a conspiracy. It is simply how banking works, and it has always worked this way. But knowing it reframes the relationship. The savings account is not just a place that slowly loses value for you. It is actively generating value for someone else, using your money while returning only a fraction of that value to you. Understanding this does not require anger. It simply requires awareness. And awareness in financial life is almost always the beginning of better decisions. So the quiet truth behind this is straightforward. Your savings account is not your enemy, but it is also not your financial plan. It is a tool with a specific, limited purpose. And when it is used beyond that purpose, when years of long-term money sit inside it because change feels uncomfortable and risk feels threatening, it becomes the reason your wealth is not growing the way your discipline deserves. The person who works hard, spends carefully, saves consistently, and never moves beyond the savings account is doing most things right. But that one missing step, understanding where long-term money actually belongs, is what separates financial comfort from financial progress. And that understanding is available to anyone willing to look at the numbers honestly. That is where real change begins.